So, I'm just going to give you guys a little tour of how I made my iPad. I've been working on making a model of an iPad for maybe since yesterday pretty much. And I've got all the materials and just started making it, and it seems pretty simple so far, so I'm going to give you a little update on how it's going. This is material that I've been using, which is just a standard foam core. Don't know the exact size of it, but basic black foam core, no big deal. Then I've done drawings of my iPad on here. I've taken dimensions off of the Apple site, and then done some nice drawing on top of the imagery to get the proper radiuses, like the big sweeping radiuses. And because it's such a simple geometry, it's actually quite amazing for model making. Like, it's a really simple way to learn how to make your own models if you don't do that yet. So the iPad actually comes out on April 3rd, in the States anyways. This is Toronto, but basically it's March 14th right now in Toronto, where I live, and I hope to create one of these, put some nice shiny black plastic on it, and run around in the city and kind of get a bit of buzz going, and create interesting blog posts and whatnot. So, using the material and stuff like that. Like, I think it could make some funny commentary about the iPad. So what I'm doing now is just taking that stencil, printed it out on a 8.5 by 11. It fits, the iPad fits nicely on an 8.5 by 11 sheet. It's quite a nice format they've chosen, even though most people will complain about the size and how it's a medium between a phone and a computer, and they don't understand and all this stuff. But anyways, this is the size of it. It's actually quite nice in scale. I used the spray mount Super 77 to put like my stencils. I even printed out stencils for the ribbing that I wanted to go on the back, because if you notice this bevel that's on the back here, that requires sort of a ribbing structure to put a material on the back to make the bevel back, right? And because here, I've done this already, but these are the rib stencils that I've printed out. I've taken into account the material thickness of the iPad, so that this drawing right here, that piece, is this. I've already made one, printed it out, stuck it on with the spray mount, and cut it out with my other things. So that's the size of it. And that's the size of the full thickness of the iPad, right? Now, when you take into account the material thickness and you want to make ribs that allow this shape to happen on this orientation of the iPad, you want to have those ribbing on the back. In this case, this is the back for me. So what I've done is I've made the ribs, and these go on about this orientation, because this is where the radius. You get the same. I shouldn't say radius. This is where you get the same sloping sort of curve happening as you do in this orientation, to get the nice bevel that they have on the back. And in doing that, you have to sort of find where that corner, where that taper ends, and be able to put another rib the opposite way. And because it's such a long bevel, it actually ends right about here, and so that makes a nice perfect square in each corner, where you would put the opposite rib, the one that's perpendicular to that, right here. So I've done a nice little slotting so they fit nicely into each other. Perfect half size of the rib to do that. One of the things you'll notice also is that the rib is actually very thin compared to the original size of the iPad, because I took into account the material thickness of the foam core on the front face. So what I've got here is the exact same, like you've got that, which is the proper profile for the front side. And now if you take away the material thickness, it's interesting because it actually lines right up with this edge of this, the other geometry they have there for the buttons. But what it does, very simple design, very nice design. What that does is it lines up directly on top, and you see that the rib actually leaves this, it's right here and leaves space for the foam core right there. So that's what these ribs are, because if you look at in this orientation, you can see how that will eventually make a nice bevel on the back once I overlay a material. So what material I'm going to use for the back, the material I'm going to use is this very shiny, almost anodized aluminum looking piece of card. You can get this kind of card at your regular art store. This is actually made by Canson, and it's called anodized. It's their effects line, I guess, effects paper, card paper. And I'm hoping it'll do a nice job of replicating the back of the iPad. What I was going to do is actually print out the Apple logo and then on the card, and then put it on. I also have sort of a template idea that I want to split out the corner radiuses into little extended pieces, and fold those extended pieces back so that they go along the inside of this radius nicely on the inside. It's hard to explain, but I'll glue them down. You'll see later on as I go in the process. So that's where I am right now.